Good afternoon, DawgNation. Welcome in to Go with the Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. We have reached the final weekly edition of our program. Now, don't worry, we always return during the college football playoff at some point, usually around whenever Georgia plays. But this is the final weekly installment of our program. After a wild run through the regular season, we have arrived at championship week, and it is quite a battle at the top of our season-long standings. I hope that all of you are doing as well with your picks as a couple of our panelists have been over the course of the last few weeks, and a championship will be decided here very soon. In fact, before we get into this week's championship game picks involving Georgia, Alabama, and everything else, let's give you an update on where things stand with our panel of distinguished DawgNation colleagues, and of course, Dari, Payrow as well. So how about Mike? Another winning week last week. And we've been joking on this show for a few weeks, but the so-called system that Mike is using, whatever it is working. 4-2 last week puts him at 41-31 on the year, getting close to the mark that I put up last year, 13 games over 500. Mike in now double-digit games over 500, well into the profit column. Dari Payrow, who has been nipping at his heels, 3-3 last week. That puts him at 38-34 on the year. And how about Jeff Sentell? With a winning week last week, now at also 38-34 on the year. So we really have a three-man battle for the most part, with just 3 games separating first place from third place here. Kaylee Mansell also winning week last week, 36-36 on the year. Connor Riley winning week last week at 30, puts him at 35-37 on the year. Me, unfortunately, 2-4 last week. I thought I was 3-3, but maybe 2-4. 2-4 last week puts me at the bottom of the standing. Strongest performer in our game because I'm holding up everybody else. At the bottom of the standings here right now. Rough year for me, and I just can't seem to shake it. So we're going to take our lumps and come back and shake it off and get ready to do better next year. The important thing, though, is up at the top, quite a battle here. Mike Griffith, I got to come to you first. 10 games over 500. Congrats on a remarkable run through the regular season. Do you feel any pressure to maintain that here in this postseason edition of the program?
Pressure is a privilege, and I mean, it kind of is, and what you left out there was, I believe I started the year like 6-12 or 6-18 or something something really bad, but I feel like you kind of moved the goalposts on me there, BA, being 13 over 500 last year. That was quite a season for you. And, somehow now I feel like now I actually do feel like, wow, I can't really take my foot off the gas. I'm going to have to really bear down and try to go up against the season you had last year, because that was a remarkable season last year you had.
Well, much like Lane Kiffin, I have to try to find a way to make it be about me, and that was my attempt at doing that there. Dari Payrow, you're a couple of games back from Mike. I think you said before our show began you were lamenting a couple of your picks from this past week. What is your mindset going into this final weekly installment of the program?
Yeah, I mean, last week I did 2 that kind of the Texas A&M was more hopeful. I was hoping that they would win that game. I actually took a personal bet. I put money on Texas. So that one was more to go against the grain of Mike to try to gain, but it was also more of a hope and a wish, because I was hoping Georgia could get the bye this week and try to get healthy before the playoff run. The Michigan one was also a bit of a stretch for me to pick against Ohio State there. But, other than that, this week I feel really good. We'll see if my picks line up with Mike. I won't be adjusting or changing. I'll just be calling them like I see it. I'm still on fire because I went 4 for 4 on my best picks last week.
I like it.
Actually, even 5 with the last minute one that Mike threw out with Clemson, South Carolina. Nailed that one as well. I feel good about my picks here, and I'm not going to get into any of these, the gamification of this. I'm just gonna play it like I see it, and we'll see where that stacks up.
That's always my approach too. I just try to win my own games, and what other people do is their business. I'm right there with you on that. So that starts us off with the SEC Championship. Speaking of gamification, obviously this has been a game that Georgia has found itself in on a regular basis here. 5 straight trips to the SEC Championship, 8 times going to the SEC title game in the Kirby Smart era. but the opponent is a familiar nemesis and one that has been trouble for Georgia in this building, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a number of times. Georgia, however, though, favored 2.5 points right now, 11-1 in the season. Alabama 10-2, escaping with an Iron Bowl victory against Auburn last week. Bama has never lost inside MBS. But Kirby Smart, though, has been very good in the rematch opportunities, getting 3 of those. Texas last year, Auburn in 2017, and, of course, Alabama in 2021, including a national championship game. But it is in this spot where the Crimson Tide often proves to be trouble. Georgia is favored by 2.5 points. Mike Griffith, we come to you on this final weekly edition of Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews.
Yeah, so this is where I ask about the overtime, right? It turns into 2 points after the first touchdown. So that's where that 2.5 could mean a double overtime game that could be decided, I believe, by 2. So, you could technically take Alabama and Georgia still win. I saw where Alabama was unbeaten in Mercedes-Benz Stadium there. I'm not sure if that was against the spread or but now that I think about it, have they lost there? Have they won their last 8? Is that right? Going back quite a
Apparently
ways.
so.
So, yeah, they've had a lot of success, and they beat Georgia earlier this year. And Georgia, we're talking about the Drew Bobo injury. Of course, if I pick Alabama, that's going to put a lot of pressure on everyone else to want to keep up with me. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And Connor already knows that I'm going to work my way around to taking Georgia because, as he knows, that's what I always do. And I don't want to disappoint him. So I'm going to take Georgia, and I'm going to lay the points, Connor.
So, Mike, jumping on Georgia and the points against Alabama, I will tell you that Jeff Santel, we are recording this in the midst of a recruiting wildfire of epic proportions. And so Jeff is taking care of that business. We'll get his picks officially entered into the record. And by the way, that's appropriate now, given the fact that Jeff is now tied for second after a winning week last week. So we'll enter that in later on. But for now, we'll pop over and get Connor Riley on the heels of Mike taking Georgia. Connor, I know in recent games from the Dawgs against the Crimson Tide, you've been skeptical. Do you remain so?
Classic hedge.
Mike just said it right there. Emotional hedge. You think I'm picking Georgia in this game? This is one of the few things that I've been right on Georgia this year, is picking Alabama in this game. I do kind of like the zag in this game of taking Georgia because I feel like a lot of people are going to be on Alabama just because of the history in this point, and this island is a little bit crowded, but I in good faith, I just can't pick Georgia here, just given all the history, given all the success I've had in picking this game over the years. So I'm going to take Alabama in the 2.5 points here.
So split decision there for you, Kaylee Mansell. It has been every kind of loss that Georgia can suffer against Alabama, but a very pretty win going back to January of 2022 in Indianapolis. What stands out to you as you make your pick in this one?
I'm going to take the emotional pick. I'm an emotional person, and at least I'm consistent, though, because every time this matchup has taken place, I have taken Georgia. So at least I can call for some consistency within myself. I'm going to go with Mike here and take the Dawgs.
Okay, so I have to confess, as I mentioned before, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. It's been a crazy day in the midst of our lead up to the recording. That means that some of the typical prep I would have done, I honestly have not done, although this year it has not helped me very much with my picks anyway. So let me just go with my gut here for a moment and tell you a couple of things. I do genuinely believe that Georgia's the better team. Why haven't they beaten Alabama more frequently? Why didn't they beat them in September? Not an easy question to answer, but I do genuinely believe that the Alabama team we've seen over the course of the last few weeks has just not been among the national elite, including the Iron Bowl on Saturday against Auburn. It did turn out to be an Alabama cover, but it was not exactly a thing of beauty if you're a Crimson Tide fan. So because of that, I'm going to take Georgia. And yet, here's where the emotional part comes in. The last 2 times that Alabama has beaten Georgia in the SEC Championship game, it has done so on the heels of playing terribly in the Iron Bowl. Ugly game in 2023, ugly game in 2021. And yet the version of Alabama we saw the following Saturday was almost like 2 completely different teams. And that's really what it gets to for Georgia and Alabama. It's not quite a losing streak, although it's reformed as one. Georgia has at least beaten Alabama in the Kirby Smart era, but this preponderance of losses for Georgia against this one opponent, it almost defies description. It almost defies logic because Georgia has seemingly lost Alabama about every way you can lose one. And yet, perhaps just because I'm a sucker or maybe a glutton for punishment or whatever else, I'm going to line up behind Georgia again here in this spot. It was never a doubt. Of course, I'm going to take Georgia here for vibes, if nothing else. I'll take Georgia minus the 2.5. I do genuinely believe they're the better team. It'd be great if they'd play that way. Normally we would say that puts the flow on the side of whatever. This week we're picking a 4, so it's a 2-2 split. So I'm just going to say flow on the side of Georgia because I took Dari, Georgia. Do you want to go with the flow then and take Georgia?
I can see this game going either way, and it's most likely going to be another close finish between these two teams. But if Bama is a dog and they're getting points in this matchup, I'm always going to take those points. So I'm going to take the Tide here. Like Mike said, earlier, I mean, they are undefeated in the stadium. They've won kickoff classics. I think they got 4 or 5 SEC championships games there, national title game there. If they're getting points, I'll take them, and hopefully Georgia eliminates them from the playoffs with a victory here, and it's like a 1-point, 2-point victory. I think the game's going to be close. It's going to be tight, but give me the Tide.
So let me tell you this, Dari, real quick. I do not believe that Georgia will win this game by a field goal. It's almost like one of those things where if you wanted to like arbitrage this, where maybe you take Alabama money line along with like a Georgia alternate line of if Georgia wins, they may just win it. They may win by a couple of touchdowns. They may do that, or they may do as they've been doing lately, which is not win against the Crimson Tide. The first quarter has told us a lot in some of these recent matchups, but do you like my idea that if Georgia wins, favorite 2.5, they're not kicking a field goal to win, I don't believe. They're either losing or maybe they really get this monkey off their back in this building in an emphatic way.
I don't see that at all. I don't see Georgia blowing out this Bama team. I play it 50 times in my head. I don't see that being a scenario. Maybe they win by double digits, like a late thing, but I do not see this game getting away from Bama. I think even if it did there was a period where there was a stretch. I think Bama has the offense to match that and catch up, just kind of like how Georgia can, just how Georgia did in the earlier game this season, got down and then was able to start coming back. I think both these teams have that potential. They both have that firepower. Alabama's defense, it's not the best it's been in the history's past, but it's a pretty good defense, allowing 16 points or 17 points per game, giving up. I mean, I do not see a scenario where Georgia blows them out.
So we will keep our eye on that. Georgia and Alabama in the SEC Championship. We'll step outside of SEC play here and look at a couple of other conference title games outside the Power Four that could have playoff implications, including one of the more controversial picks we've ever had as a part of Go With The Flow. Obviously, when you get into conference championship weekend, there are fewer conferences there used to be. There was a time on this show we'd be picking Friday Night Pac-12 and a lot of stuff like that. There aren't as many conferences to pick from as they once were. So with that in mind, we have to turn our attention to the Sun Belt, where the Dukes of James Madison at 11-1 at least stay somewhat alive for a spot in the college football playoff. If you care about playoff predictors, they are third among group of 6 teams for a chance to be in the college football playoff, but they are also a gigantic favorite, hosting, in this case, the Troy Trojans in the Sun Belt title game. 11-1 against 8-4. How about a line of 23.5 points? James Madison done pretty well when favored by more than 20 this year, 3-1 against the spread in that situation. But it's a Troy team that has been hot as of late, 7-2 against the spread in its last 9 games. Much larger spread than we normally pick, but we're picking it for a reason because there's at least some chance that James Madison could be a representative in the college football playoff, especially depending on how a different conference title game goes, which we'll get to in a moment. So James Madison, the Dukes, favored 23.5. Mike Griffith, we come to you.
Yeah, just to play spoiler on you there, Brandon, can the Dukes out Duke if Duke wins the ACC title game? That's the nightmare scenario where the ACC doesn't get a team in the college football playoff, and I'm here for it. I think James Madison is a really good football team, even though Kurt Cignetti took a lot of those players with him to Indiana. When he took that job, that was how he built that culture quickly. Obviously, he left some pretty good players behind, and they're playing some pretty good football, and they feel disrespected because they haven't shown up in the CFP rankings, even though you could make the argument with the way they've been winning that they may be as good as some of these American Athletic Conference teams. They just don't have the schedule. So What they do have is Troy. All they can do is control the controllables, and I think they will. And I think they have an explosive enough offense that I'm going to lay that big number on James Madison with hopes that they play spoiler and potentially knock the ACC out of the college football playoffs.
It's a big number up there in Harrisonburg. Mike taking the Dukes minus the 23.5. Connor Riley, what about for you?
Taking a 23.5 point favorite is crazy. And yet I'm going to do it. I think the Sun Belt will probably try and want James Madison to get into the playoff in some way because of the money the conference stands to make by them getting in. So they're going to do everything they can to give James Madison a comfortable win this year. James Madison's only loss in the year was a competitive game against Louisville, a team that Miami failed to beat. So give me the Dukes here. I'm going to ride with our fourth president of the United States and the 23.5 points.
So Connor also on the side of James Madison plus the points. Kaylee Mansell, what about you?
I feel like I need to pull a Connor, and because the two people before me took the favorite, I feel like I have to zag. So I'll take the flyer on Troy.
So Kaylee is on the Trojans of Troy. I'm also too. I just think it's too many points. I think I agree with Mike. I think that James Madison has been a good team this year and clearly an emerging program at the Group of 5 level. That is a lot of points. If you're curious, the weekend weather forecast in Harrisonburg, Virginia, a high of 44, a low of 24. This game's actually on Friday too. We should also point out as well. Or is it? Yeah, I think it's on Friday. So cold weather, not the coldest weather of all time, but still pretty cold weather here for this one. Maybe too cold to win by that margin. Plus, even if you're playing in your own building and the refs are on your side, still hard to go out and blow out an opponent when you got so much pressure on your performance. We gave you the graphic earlier. Troy's been pretty hot lately, at least hot enough to keep this inside the 23.5. I'd be surprised if James Madison doesn't win. But I think that Troy keeps this inside that number. Once again, that puts a split decision here on this shorter panel this week. But nonetheless, we'll ask you, Dari, you want to go with the flow and now take Troy plus the 23.5.
Well, I came into this pick thinking I was going to do one thing. And then I totally changed of how I was going to do this. And then I thought we were picking a different game. It was this game, but then a different game, but now we're back to this game.
There you go.
And then I'm going back to my original pick that I had when I was coming in to this game. And so my pick is the winning pick, and that is the Trojans are going to cover this number. I think they cover the number under 20. I will probably bet that to juice my odds. I think I'm also going to take a player prop, and Ra Thomas is going to not only score once, but he's going to score 2 touchdowns in this game. Give me the Trojans.
There you go. By the way, I will point out this game is on Friday night. This is the one of the notable games to take place there on Friday. James Madison hosting Troy here for the Sun Belt Conference Championship. The other game from the group of 6, far more likely to determine who makes the college football playoff from outside the Power 4, sees in the American Athletic Conference the Tulane Green Wave, fresh off losing Coach John Summerall to Florida, gets ready to host the Mean Green of North Texas. So there'll be a lot of green on the field here. And by the way, North Texas just lost its coach too on his way to Oklahoma State. Tulane is 10-2. North Texas very quietly has put an 11-1 record together here in this spot. It's actually North Texas that's favored in this game against Tulane here. So you got North Texas and Tulane. North Texas favored 2.5 in the American Athletic Conference Championship. This one almost certainly will determine a playoff spot. Both these teams have the highest odds of making the playoff outside the Power 4. Mike Griffith, we come back to you, perhaps the final time for both of these coaches coaching their team in the American Athletic Conference Championship. What do you want to do with the Green Wave getting 2.5?
I believe Tulane's at home, isn't it?
They are.
And isn't this game in
It
New
is.
Orleans? Yeah. And so they're a home underdog. They're the higher seeded team. And a lot of times, Brandon, you'll tell us when the higher ranked team is a home underdog, it's a really simple pick. But with both coaches leaving, it kind of complicates things. And I think North Texas is a better team. I know that the College Football Playoff Committee has ranked Tulane higher all year, but It wasn't so long ago that the CFP committee, a different one albeit, tried to tell us that Tennessee was better than Georgia. And Tennessee came to Georgia and lost in a battle of number ones, historic game, number one CFP versus number one AP. I'm going to go against the College Football Playoff Committee, and I'm going to take North Texas, and I'm going to lay the points.
So Mike on the side of the mean green on the road as a 2.5-point favorite. Connor Riley, what about for you? American Athletic Conference Championship game.
I'm going to go with Tulane here also. I just think that the Green Wave, I know they're an underdog in this game, but they've played well in big spots this season. This is a huge spot for them. They've beaten Duke, a team that could possibly get their way into the college football playoff. So I like Tulane in this case, and North Texas gives me a little bit of pause here. I like John Summerall to get the win.
All right, so split decision here. Connor on Tulane, Mike on North Texas. Kaylee Mansell, break the tie.
Yeah, I'm going to take North Texas. I think this is a really good passing offense versus a mediocre pass defense. And I think that North Texas has kind of felt slighted by the playoff committee for most of the season, and they've seen that. So this is their chance to prove themselves. So I'm going to take North Texas.
Yeah, I totally agree. Anytime there's the contrarian point spread, people would have expected Tulane ranked and at home to be favored. When they're not, you would always give a longer look to the to that team in the favorite spot, and I think it's worth a look on North Texas. They are my pick in this game too, and my reason for that beyond so is pretty simple. Both these coaches doing double duty. John Summerall coaching Tulane before taking the Florida job full-time. Eric Morris coaching North Texas before taking the Oklahoma State job full-time. By the way, he is a Cowboys alum. But which of these two jobs is it easier to do double duty with? Not to say that Oklahoma State doesn't care about its program, but out west, they're just more laid back. They're relaxed. That's one of the reasons why Mike Gundy lasted as long as he did. There's just a little different pace of life out there. Whereas in the SEC at Florida, there is a ton of pressure, especially if you're trying to live up to a job where the fan base really wanted Lane Kiffin, didn't get him. John Summerall's got to hit the ground running. He's clearly got more of a divided attention in this spot than Morris is going to have on Saturday. And honestly, that's enough for me to back the favorite. The odds makers already think they're the better team, and I think they probably have the more focused coach because Morris just probably needs the game more and probably doesn't have as many people pulling on him coming out of Stillwater. So that's enough for me to also back the mean green in this game and, you know, maybe even take him to make the college football playoff as opposed to just winning in this particular spot. So that puts the real flow on the side of North Texas too. Dari, you want to go with the flow and take the mean green of North Texas?
Yeah, who'd everyone take here?
It's Mike and Kaylee and me all on North Texas. Connor on an island with Tulane.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you look at this, Tulane has kind of owned North Texas historically in the short term. Past few years, they've handled them and beat them pretty well. However, I think this year I'm on the side of North Texas. I think they're going to have too much offense. They're going to have the least amount of turnovers in this game, but they're going to score too many points for Tulane, and they're going to send Summerall packing early to Florida.
There you go. I like the idea of a Florida coach losing, even if he's not coaching for Florida. That is a lot of fun. Good stuff there from Dari. Payrow.
I think the funniest scenario, Brandon, just since you mentioned that, would be actually Tulane winning this game, going on some Cinderella story, winning the whole national championship, and then he goes to Florida and can't break 7 wins for 5 years.
Too.
I think that would be the better scenario.
I like that too. Also keep in mind as well with both North Texas and Tulane having the interim, I should say the lame duck coaches, I think there's a really good chance that neither coach in the college football playoff. Does that cause the committee to take a longer look at James Madison? Probably not, but it's at least worth considering that while you debate what's going to happen with Ole Miss in the post-Lane Kiffin world, the winner of the American Athletic Conference Championship is also probably in a similar boat. And you just heard from Dari Payrow there a moment ago. And speaking of Dari Payrow, don't forget, R.S. Andrews takes good care of you. This time of year, it's cold outside. Heating systems required to keep you warm and toasty on the inside of your home, and R.S. Andrews can help you with all of that. Then get your heating system tuned back up to factory fresh specs. The Christmas season, everybody wants to feel cozy on the inside of their home, and the really tuned up heating system gives you a chance for that. So get yours tuned back up to factory fresh specs. Find a way to get some new life out of your old unit R.S. Andrews can show you how, and it may only cost you $99. So find out more online at rsandrews.com. We love having R.S. Andrews as a part of Go With The Flow. Now, with that said, we'll step back into, thankfully, I'm sure for many, Power 4 competition with our next conference championship game. And this one, I think, sets up to be a pretty fun one. It'll lead into the SEC Championship, the traditional noon start for the Big 12 championship game, with Texas Tech hosting BYU. Both these teams would like to believe they have playoff aspirations, but it's Texas Tech, though, that has the inside track on that with the previous win they got against BYU earlier this season. 13.5 is the number here. Texas Tech, pretty big favorite for the Big 12 title game. Mike Griffith, we come back to you. Can the Red Raiders finish it off and punch their ticket to the college football playoff?
Yeah, they won this game, I believe, 29-7 in Lubbock earlier this year, and there's a big stage, and Texas Tech's roaring right now. I think BYU's a good team. I think they'd like to think they could get in with 2 losses. I don't think they can, and I don't think they can stay on the field with Texas Tech. So, Brandon, I know you got on me last week for taking too many favorites,
But you did it, though.
I did, and I'm going to have to stick to my guns and go with the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
No, listen, you were right. You were on the favorites, and it worked out to the tune of a winning week. Nothing to apologize when it comes to that, and getting right back on that horse again here with the Red Raiders minus the big number against BYU. Connor Riley, we skip Jeff Santel right now for those of you just joining us. Jeff on assignment. We'll get his picks loaded into the season-long standings, but not able to be with us live. So, Connor Riley, how about for you?
Yeah, I'm just not into Cougars. And so because of that, I'm going to take Texas Tech here to cover the 13.5 points. If it were 14.5, that's probably where I would be interested in taking BYU in this game. But Cougars just don't do it for me. So I'm going to take Texas Tech this week.
There you go. Connor working blue here on Go With The Flow. Kaylee, Mansell, how about you?
Okay, I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to follow that with more witty commentary. I think there's going to be chaos at some point this week. I'm looking at some of these other games and it just doesn't feel right. For the Big 12, I just don't think it's that easy. So I'll take the underdog. I'll take BYU and go Cougars.
I've been aligned with Kaylee a few times today. I'm going to be aligned here as well. I'm going to take BYU 2 plus the points. First of all, it's an interesting week in Provo with Kalani Sitake, and by the time folks see this, we may have a resolution to this, possibly moving on to become the next Penn State coach, although it seems like BYU doing everything it can, including some of its key boosters, to keep Sitake employed there with the Cougars, so we'll see how that works out. But for me, this is more along the lines of, well, I do believe that Texas Tech is the class of the Big 12. It's another thing to finish off what has been a bit of a dream season, to clinch your ticket to the college football playoff, to punch your ticket to the college football playoff. Doing that in an angst-free way is not always an easy thing to do. I could see a little hiccup here where Texas Tech has to dig deep, find something in itself. It's mostly been handling its business, just got a huge dominant 40-plus point road win at West Virginia this past week. It's been a lot of easy games for Texas Tech in recent weeks, but with the national spotlight and one step away from really a miraculous trip to the college football playoff, Texas Tech previously, that would have mostly been unimaginable. I think feeling a little butterfly in the stomach's a natural thing, maybe enough to keep it close for a BYU team that's also been pretty good in its own right, too. So I'll take a flyer on the underdog here, BYU plus the points. That also, once again, puts a split decision here out there on this. But because I took BYU, I'll ask Dari, you want to go with the flow and take Brigham Young as it gets ready to do battle with Texas Tech?
Well, Texas Tech has not won an outright conference championship since 1955. They will accomplish that this weekend. They're going to win. But I'm taking BYU and all those points. I think they're going to keep this game close.
Yeah, I think that's the right side. I really do. I think that, the idea that the Big 12 Conference Championship game is going to be chaos-free, as Kaylee Mansell also alluded to, hard to imagine that. I feel like we probably get a little drama to lead into whatever's going to happen between Georgia and Alabama coming up after that. So that's the Big 12 Conference Championship game. SEC will take place after that. Then you'll get ready to watch some of these other Conference Championship games, too, to the extent that you have any interest, including our next game to pick, which is the ACC conference title game. And what a mess this is, as Duke has a chance to still make the college ball playoff, despite the fact they have lost numerous times already this year. Virginia trying to at least salvage something from the league. 3.5-point favorite. The game has its typical home there in Charlotte. You can only imagine there'll be 9 people in the building here for Virginia against Duke, but Virginia is a 3.5-point favorite against the Duke Blue Devils. And obviously for a Duke team that's lost 5 times already this year, if it wins, theoretically it'll make the college ball playoff. But by contract, all you really have to do is take the 5 highest-rated conference champions, which means that the ACC could be shut out of the playoff. I don't think it will be, even if it's Duke, but it could happen. It could happen. The line sees the Wahoos favored by 3.5 here over the Duke Blue Devils. Mike Griffith, we come to you. 7-5 Duke playing conference championship Saturday. What do you want to do with the Cavaliers favored 3.5?
Boy, this is a real toss-up game. You saw where Virginia beat Duke earlier this year, and I was talking with Mark Richt, who does the ACC Network games, and he says, boy, when Duke plays clean football, they're really good. The question is, what does Duke do on the big stage in Charlotte? Do they give Virginia their best game, or do they meet Virginia and not play as well as they're capable of doing? If this game were earlier in the season, I would probably take Duke, but it's basketball season now, and those guys want to go to Cameron Indoor and watch the basketball team. So in the battle of basketball schools, I think things are going to bounce Virginia's way, and I'm going to take the Cavaliers.
All right, so there you go. Mike, hearkening back on the great history of basketball there in Charlottesville. Connor Raleigh, how about you?
One, I'd like to point out that Virginia has more recently won the NCAA basketball title than Duke has. 2, I have a 1-game lead over Brandon for last place in this season. And the big difference in my mind is that one of us figured out early in the season that you do not pick Duke under any circumstances. And one of us did not. And so I'm not going to pick Duke under any circumstances. I've learned my lesson from touching the hot stove. I like this Virginia team. I also think that the refs might be in the pocket for Virginia in this game because the ACC probably needs Virginia to win just to be safe. So wahoo wah this week. Give me the Cavs. Give me Virginia and Tony Elliott to cover the spread.
Connor's 100% right. If you want to know why I'm in last place, I have picked Duke a lot, which tells you everything you need to know about how bad my picks have been. And also, we may be pretty closely aligned on something else, too, which I'll get to in a moment. But first, Kaylee Mansell, how about you here the flow flowing in on Virginia here right now?
And the flow is going to continue to flow. I cannot even believe that Duke found its way into this game. When I asked somebody who was playing in the ACC Championship and they said Duke, I thought they were lying to me. It feels like this might be the easiest pick on the board this week. So I'm not going to switch it up. I'm going to take Virginia too.
So be careful with that now. Now I know I've been wrong about Duke plenty, but be careful with it being easy because the truth is, and you make up your own punchline here, it's got to be the best 7-5 team in America. I mean, Duke, like at times they have played, took Tech down to the wire, for instance. They have played okay for a team that does just continuously lose. But ultimately, I do like Virginia for the reason that Connor just mentioned. There is no way Duke gets any close call in this game whatsoever. It would be total embarrassment for the ACC to represent itself with Duke as its champion, running the risk that it might not make, I'm talking about as a league, the college football playoff. I do believe they want to avoid that at all costs. I do think a Virginia win, it gives them at least a chance to save face. Now, here's what we know. The ACC's been doing the open replay booth this year. We've heard the deliberations with the replay officials while they're ongoing. So if the thumb is going on the scale in this game, it cannot be instant replay because we hear all of that. It's going to have to be with penalties, holding calls, judgment decisions that can't be replayed, that can absolutely impact the efficiency of drives and what the outcome of the game is going to be. Watch for a lot of laundry on the field, lots of yellow handkerchiefs, lots of penalties if need be, whatever it takes to get Virginia across the finish line. I truly believe that could be a factor here. If it's close, it is not going Duke's way because there is too much embarrassment to be had if that is your conference champion. So that puts the flow on the side of the Wahoos. Dari, you want to go with the flow and take the Who's here?
Yeah, UVA is going to get this done. It's cleaner all the way around for everything. So give me the Cavs, cover that number.
I think that's probably right. And the truth is, Virginia, especially when they've had full health, has not been a bad football team this year either. At one point this year, they're pretty high-powered offense. I don't know if they've really maintained that, but at one point they were a pretty high-powered offense. Speaking of high-powered offenses, when we reconvene on Friday for our R.S. Andrews cool down at the conclusion of DawgNation Daily, we'll give you our official pick for the Big Ten Conference Championship game, the one non-SEC game that obviously has some national attention as number 1 Ohio State gets ready to take on number 2 Indiana. That could be for the top seed, likely will be for the top seed in the college football playoff, and we'll see if the loser of that game also gets one of those coveted top 4 seeds as well. Pretty big addition to the Big Ten title game. We'll give you our official pick for that. And, of course, some best bets from a little deeper around the board. If you can find them here on this conference championship weekend, all of that's on the way. Also, for those of you who join us each week on Go With The Flow presented by R.S. Andrews during the season, thank you so much. It is a great privilege to be able to pick these games. Even in a year like this where I'm not getting anything right, it is still a real honor and a privilege to make these picks and have fun. And, of course, none of this would be possible without Dari and R.S. Andrews, who just wants us to have fun, just wants to be a part of a fun football conversation. And, man, I am grateful for that. So hopefully for you, especially if you're putting your hard-earned money down, your picks have been better than mine. But we'll keep on trying to do it as many years in the future as we can to see if we can do a little bit better. And, of course, we'll also be back with you at some point in time during the college football playoff. Once we know a little bit more about what that schedule looks like, we almost always come back and give you a playoff edition of this show. But for the final time on a weekly basis, I'll say goodbye to you here on Go With The Flow presented by R.S. Andrews and invite you to get our pick for the Big Ten title game and the other best bets at the conclusion of the Friday edition of DawgNation Daily and our R.S. Andrews Cool Down. Best of luck this weekend with your own picks. We'll talk to you again very soon on Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews.